participants, and thank you all for joining us today on the fourth session of the Regional Impact webinar that we organize as part of FAO's Food Loss and Waste Reduction Program in Europe and Central Asia. My name is Thomas Candeal. I'm a project manager at the International Food Waste Coalition, which has the pleasure to work in partnership with FAO Office for Europe and Central Asia on food waste reduction projects. During the previous webinar, we explored the ways to reduce food losses during harvest and post-harvest operation and prevent food waste during food processing and packaging stages, as well as in wholesale and retail sectors. However, as much as 26% of all food waste is generated in food service. This part is for food waste and not food losses. In this regard, restaurants, catering, and hospitality enterprises have a vital role to play in reducing food waste and contributing to the achievement of SDG 12.3. And due to the great diversity in the services that the hotel, restaurant, and catering operators provide, and the type of organizations involved, intervention vary and may include the introduction of appropriate technologies and practices, improvement of infrastructures and skills, and promotion of sustainable choices by consumers through awareness-raising campaigns, for example. So today, together with our speakers, we will look into the sector-specific practices and action that are undertaken to tackle the issue in food service and hospitality sector specifically. We look forward to learn more about these and do hope that the presented examples and cases will inspire a transformation action at your level. Before starting, please take a note of some technical information on the arrangement for the meeting in order to facilitate interaction. You have the possibility to get a translation from English to Russian and from English to Turkish interpretation throughout the webinar. So for that, you can switch language by clicking in the small globe icon at the bottom menu of your screen. We welcome your questions and comments in writing. For this, please use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screens. Please do not use the chat for this purpose. Also, please indicate your name and the name of the speakers that your question is addressed to. And then the webinar is being recorded and broadcasted on YouTube. So with this quick introduction, now with great pleasure, I would like to introduce the first speaker, who is Marie Audren, Director General at the HoReCa, the Umbrella Association of Hotels, Restaurants and Cafés in Europe. Mrs. Audren will speak about the ways that the association supports its members to improve the existing practices for reducing food waste, and will share examples of action taken by the members. So, dear Marie, the floor is yours. If everything is all right for you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Thomas, and good morning to all. I will start up sharing my screen. I hope everyone can see. So really, thank you very much for inviting us at HoReCa to join this session and this discussion. It's of course a very important topic for us, and I really also look forward to learn from other speakers and participants how we can collaborate on this issue. So just about some information about HoReCa, which is a Brussels-based trade organization. So we indeed represent hotel, restaurants, bars, and cafes in Europe. We are, well, actually, we will be from 1st of January next year, 46 national associations. So this national association represent either the full hospitality sector, or some will work with hotel and others will work with restaurants and bar. We are represented in 34 countries. So, for example, we have most of the EU member states, but we also have members in Turkey, recently in Ukraine, in Georgia, in Azerbaijan, in Norway. So that's very interesting, of course, for us to have this widespread membership. A bit of background on the hospitality industry. And let's say my caveat, which is the big elephant in the room for us these days, is the impact on the COVID pandemic, which has been extremely hard on the hospitality sector. But let's say prior to COVID, the sector in Europe is about 2 million companies, very diverse in size and in location. And the vast majority, over 90%, are really micro enterprise. Hospitality, of course, is one of the largest employer in Europe, with about 12 million jobs there, and you have very different, again, type of jobs. But what is interesting and what has been important is over 20% of the workforce was age under 25. So we have a lot of young people working in the hospitality sector. It's of course a very important pillar in the economy, with about 5% of GDP. And if you account with tourism, because I think it's very important part of tourism, tourism represents in Europe 10% of the GDP. So that's a very important sector in terms of the job we generate, the economy, and also, of course, the impact on other sectors. So, I mean, it's of course very important to discuss food waste. And maybe I should have also, of course, put first that we are committed in HoReCa with our members to the United Nations goal and the goal of the European Union to have half food loss and food waste by 2030. So it's a clear commitment from the European hospitality industry. This is an area where we've been committed to work for the past couple of years, and we want to continue. So our activities, and I maybe provide some details, is around, of course, what we can do to raise awareness within HoReCa. So a couple of years ago, we had issued guidelines and recommendation to on food waste, on food donation for hospitality businesses. So that's very important because we have various pillars, of course, in the old food waste for hospitality. And of course, we are very active at HoReCa by being a member, and we have renewed our membership of the EU platform on food loss and food waste, which is, of course, extremely important action at EU level. So, and there are also the activities of our members, which really are diverse, but also there is no one-size-fits-all approach. So every country has its own approach and its way to work. So how they can collaborate, of course, with public authorities and stakeholders. And some of them have developed their own manuals and guidelines, and it is based often on the EU recommendation. They, of course, do exchange best practices through HoReCa, but also other platforms. Maybe one data, because I heard you mentioned 26% in the EU. Food services were the contribution, it was about 12% representing 12% of the total food waste. But that's the big family of food services. So obviously for hospitality, it's a smaller share of this percentage, but nevertheless, it's an important share, and we have to work on this. So maybe just to remind the context to everybody, but I think here all the speakers and contributors know very well that's where the recommendation for action for hospitality and food service that were agreed at EU level, and that's something HoReCa has contributed to. So we were part of this drafting and discussion around the recommendation for approach. And of course, I think it's very important in terms of increase the knowledge and the capacity building. That's clear, and here we all have a role to play at our different level. Make sure and motivate business that it's becoming part of daily operation. Of course, there is a very increased level of knowledge of food waste, and why for the environment, for the people, and for also the economy of the business, it's important to reduce. But of course, we have to work to make sure it's part of the daily operation. There was also a call to look at the logistical challenges, because of course, you have different type of waste and loss in hospitality and food service. And of course, I mean, in some of these these are small portions. So how we can adjust to the different realities, setting KPIs, and of course, the consumer expectation and behavior play a very important role. And I'm sure we'll discuss that. And that's, of course, a very important aspect. So what have been the main challenges in terms of the different pillars? Because the way we work at HoReCa under the EU platform, there were different subgroups on measuring food waste, the donation, and also how we can promote the consumer behavior and how we can develop that. So on the food measurement, clearly that is a challenging issue, in particular also for SMEs, where they really need support, and how you measure, but also to develop the skills. And I think that's really important to work also with training organization, not just the business, but also all the stakeholders, and also how you look at the space in a small restaurants or a bar. Food donation is something we've done a lot, and also at the beginning of COVID, there was a lot of action at different national members were taking action on food donation. But here again, I mean, it's a challenge in terms of the food, the safety, and also the smaller portion. So I was asked maybe to present some initiatives, and I think I've just taken a few, but there are more and more. Our role in HoReCa, of course, is to collect regularly about those initiatives and make sure our members exchange about what works, what didn't work. So there is in Austria this big commitment from all the value chain to work on and reduce food waste, and it was an initiative under the remit of the Federal Ministry for Sustainability and Tourism. What is interesting, I find in this, it's that it involves many authorities and the business and different level of government, and also consumer organizations. So really trying to have an overview and working together. So there was, for example, different priorities that have been set in a collaborative manner by the different, under this remit. It's important also, of course, to have regular publication, assess the implementation, and provide data about the impact. I know, for example, that and they had also, for example, decided on the Food Pact, which is a voluntary agreement. I think what is important, is particular in the world of SMEs, is that it adjusts to the local culture and really to the needs. It's tailor-made, and it's voluntary. We strongly believe in HoReCa that incentivize the SMEs, supporting them, but also not necessarily put too strong legislative KPIs and requirements, but really trying to work on voluntary commitment and measures and indication, because it's important also to make sure we don't penalize those companies which are already doing a lot to reduce the food waste. The other initiative I think that was interesting is really our member in Belgium region of Flanders, which was launched this campaign to help restaurants to reduce their food waste. And they had developed really practical information for the business, because of course, it's important to have general approach on food waste, but it's also important to develop practical information that are really making sure they can it can be part of their daily operation and how you work in a restaurant. So this campaign, there is a website, and it was a really practical checklist with tips about how to reduce. And also there was the possibility to for chefs to sign a charter where they show and they express their commitment. And I think this approach was really interesting in Belgium. So I'll finish a bit and I look forward really to questions and discussion. What we think are very important. So it's really, we would strongly encourage and want to take part to this exchange of best practice, and certainly as HoReCa, as a member of the EU platform, it's an excellent opportunity to continue. We also believe it's important not only to have that at EU regional level, but also have similar initiatives and commitment at national level. That's also very important. Again, and I think there will be further discussion today on what can be easy tool and method to measure food waste, because again, it's a business very fragmented with very small companies. Of course, there are larger groups, but most of the restaurants and bars, cafe, and also hotel are very small. And we have been always calling for dedicated support to SMEs, because and I have to say now, if you see the situation facing the hospitality sector in the coming years with the impact of COVID, we will need a lot of support also to try to make our transition to the future, because a lot of the investment that are necessary in terms of sustainability, digitalization, improving our, some of the working methodology. Unfortunately, everything has been a bit held back and will be challenging because of the COVID impact. So I'll stop there and look forward to questions and further discussion. Thank you to everybody.
Thank you very much, Marie, for your presentation and for keeping the time perfectly correct. It has been very interesting to get your insight because you are in the really in the middle with all these actors and the different sectors of this food service. So let me now open the Q&A session. First, I think an important question, if we have to come back on the impact of the COVID on the sector, what would you say? Do you think it has been complicated for the actors to maintain a high level of ambition on food waste reduction? Or at the opposite, do you think that food waste reduction was also necessary to cut costs in this very difficult period financially for the sector?
No, it's a very good question, Thomas. And unfortunately, we are still operating under restriction and COVID. So we see the crisis is far from being beyond us. Of course, it has been, I think, an important moment for many establishments that were closed. Unfortunately, during that time, to look at some possibility for training, improving, of course, their business model. And as you say, probably also considering how they're going to be able to continue to break even and survive. So they have to take into consideration many aspects in terms of their supply. One of the challenges we also are facing now, like many other sectors, but it's quite difficult in the hospitality and food service, is the labor shortage. So we are struggling to find the workforce, and that will be important to make sure they are trained and well trained and well equipped. Where I'm a bit more concerned is more where you need to make significant investment. But you're right that certainly food waste is perceived as important in also the business balance and how they can manage to go through the crisis in terms of their cost.
And you also insisted on the fact that voluntary agreement and collaboration at sectorial level was very effective. Do you think that this collaboration should target specific issues, like, for example, food waste measurement, instead of, I don't know, portion size or working with suppliers? So do you think they should organize a list with priorities, or do you think they should address everything to get rich exchanges?
What I find, and again, it's my broad experience in HoReCa. Of course, I haven't focused necessarily just on food waste, but what I find is that this sense that when you have this approach that you put together all the different actors and you try to work on what is more important, and maybe culturally, I think, for example, for example, on I call the doggy bags in some cultural, it's very easy and it's something that people would understand. In other countries, it's a bit less in the culture, in the understanding. So maybe it's something, for example, in Italy, our member has developed a very nice program that they were trying to roll out with restaurants on doggy bag, which is, I think, without offending, it's not necessarily something that was in the culture in the country. So, by really, like in Austria and in other places, setting together the priorities and what makes more sense, also from the consumer, I think is the right approach, than trying to have, the same solution for everybody.
Thank you very much for everything, the presentation and the extra information you gave us. I would like now to welcome our next speaker, who is Tülay Özel, Head of Quality Assurance at Metro in Turkey. So Mrs. Özel will present the sectoral guidelines that Metro in Turkey developed in collaboration with the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry and with the support of FAO. The guidance include recommendation to prevent food wastage, as well as information on how to use unavoidable food surplus. So Tülay, if everything is right for you, you have the floor now.
Oksana, can you reflect my presentation, please?
Yes, sure. One.
Thank you. Hello again. Maybe while my presentation reflects on the screen, I can introduce myself. I am Tülay Özel. I have been working in Metro Turkey as head of quality and the assurance and sustainability. Today, within the time allocated to me, within the 10 minutes, I will try to explain what we are doing and also what we plan to do on fighting against the food waste in hospitality sector. First of all, next slide, please. First of all, I would like to start with the size of the hospitality sector. When you look at the size of the hospitality sector, before the pandemic, it was estimated that there were around 15 million food service business in the world. And also, when we look at the Turkey, it is known that there are around 1,000 restaurants, excluding the hotels. While the restaurants provide us with the unforgettable taste and experience, but when they're not managed responsibly, they can become the meeting points of the many negativities. Restaurants are building block, yes, they are dynamo of the hospitality sector, and also restaurants are very generous in using the many resources such as food, water, energy, and etc. So the influence of the restaurants is quite large in terms of the many factors affecting the sustainability, such as food, energy, water, carbon footprint, form in the supply chain, and also waste and loss. Considering the influence of the hospitality sector, I can say that the hospitality sector is an important player in reducing the food waste, and also their role is very significant. And next slide, please. When we look at the size of the food waste right now, as we all know, unfortunately, 1/3 of the food produced every year in the world is wasted. According to 2021 reports of the United Nations, in 2019, approximately 931 million tons of food has been wasted in the world. And unfortunately, 26% out of them, in other words, 242 million tons of food waste comes from the hospitality sector. And also, if we look at the situation in Turkey, according to 2021 National Inventory Report, in 2019, 12.8 million tons of food has been wasted in Turkey. And unfortunately, 3.3 million tons out of them occurs in the hospitality sector in Turkey as waste, not loss, only the as waste. When you reduce these 3.3 million tons in the Turkish hospitality sector, in fact, we will not only reduce the food that goes to waste, but also we will save the water, energy, and the labor force used in the production of that food. The waste figure in the hospitality sector, whether it is 242 million tons per year worldwide or 3.3 million tons per year in Turkey, is a very significant figure. And also we believe that a significant amount of the food can be saved from being a waste by fighting food waste in the hospitality sector. Next slide, please. Yeah. For this purpose, we started our first study on the fighting food waste in the Turkish hospitality sector in 2018. As we are Metro, in 2018, we made a waste measurement project in hotel and restaurant, which were selected as a pilot to define at which stages there is a highest amount of the waste in the hospitality sector, and to determine the root cause of the food waste, and also to define the solutions by measuring the waste in the Turkish hospitality sector. In this project, one all-inclusive hotel, one restaurant, one boutique hotel were selected, and the amount of the waste from menu planning to the customer plate was measured. As a result of the measurements, the highest amount of the waste in all three different sectors was found to be resulting from the non-consumed food on the plate and going to waste. While the amount returned from the plate in all-inclusive hotel concept is 65%, this figure is 52% in boutique hotel and 74% in the restaurant. Again, due to the inability to determine the exact number of the customers or insufficient storage area during the production and the storage phase, the waste rate was determined as 19% in restaurant and 5% in the hotel. Actually, these figures show us that many improvements can be done in the hospitality sector, from menu planning to determining the portion size according to customer structure, and also to orders and the stock management. Next slide, please. Based on this figure or data provided from this project, we decided to prepare a guideline for reducing the food waste in the hospitality sector by cooperating with the Turkish Agriculture Ministry and also FAO to support and guide the reducing the food waste in the hospitality sector in 2021. This guide is based on the three principles of the fighting food waste, such as preventing or reducing, secondly, donating food that will be wasted but can be still consumed safely, and thirdly, transforming the non-recoverable food waste. Next slide, please. In the prevention section, it is explained that what can be done from menu planning to plate or portion size according to customer structures, order, and the stock management. In the donation section, besides the recommendations for the preventing food waste, additional solutions for evaluation of the surplus food suitable for consumption by donating or reselling at a discount price are explained. In the transformation section, solutions are described for the recovery of the foods that cannot be donated or resold with the alternative solutions, such as animal feed, compost, or the energy recovery. In addition, alternative solutions such as many examples or the recipes aiming to reduce waste are also presented in this guide. We believe that in the hospitality sector, which has a significant rate in the food waste, like the 26%, this guideline, prepared together with the Agriculture Ministry and also FAO, will guide to reducing food waste in the Turkish hospitality sector. Next slide, please. In addition, I would like to say, as of January 22, we will start the training activities for the chefs in the hospitality sector, consisting of the 2 models, to extend and implement this guide in the Turkish hospitality sector. And also our efforts, such as the technical support or consultancy on the field against the food waste, will continue in the Turkish hospitality sector. And next slide, and the last slide. And the next slide, and it is last. Yes. In conclusion, as Metro Turkey, our aim with this guide is to raise the awareness about the food waste in the hospitality sector, and also to start to move or to take the action. But I can say that our struggle with the food waste is not limited to this guideline. We handle and manage our fight against the food waste in 3 stages: as our own operation, our suppliers, and also our hospitality customers. First of all, to reduce the food waste in our own operation, we try to reduce our waste with the right product, with the right packaging, and the right good receiving, the right storage, effective shelf controls, and to determine the waste reason, and also to measure the waste on the product basis. As a second stage, we are working to reduce the food waste in our supplier facilities, and within this scope, in 2021, together with our 21 local suppliers, we voluntarily participate in the 10-20-30 project, which is internationally managed by the World Resource Institute. And also together with our suppliers, we try to support reducing food waste, which is a problem and also the big problem for the whole world. As a third stage, the fight against the food waste in the hospitality sector, which I explained in detail today. I can say that as a summary, last things, we handle the fighting against the food waste in 360 degrees as our own operation, our suppliers, and also our hospitality sector. And also I would like to say our effort to reduce the food waste will continue by cooperating with the governmental part and NGOs, and also our hospitality customers, and also our suppliers in Turkey. And that's it all from my side about the fight against the food waste. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tulay. Indeed, many initiatives from Metro, from providing guidelines for the whole sector to action in your own organization. Let me open the Q&A session now. And the first question that is coming would be on the importance of food waste measurement. Could you tell within Metro activities what methodology and what, let's say, key success factors were to enable your organization to measure accurately food waste in your activity?
Okay. I can say that the measuring show us to understand the problem firstly, to see the big picture, and also reveal the size of the problem. If there's a problem, yes, the food waste is the problem, but in order to understand the size of the problem and also the reason of this problem, and also where to take the action or where to put our finger the problem, we need to measure. So if we want to solve the problem, first we should understand the measurement results, what the results say us. That's why firstly we started the measurement process in the hospitality sector. Otherwise, it is not possible to talk about the size of the problem that we can't measure. If we don't, or if we can't measure, we don't say anything about the size of the problem. In fact, at the end of this kind of the project, you mentioned that when you put the table in a figures and the numbers, you can actually see the dimension of the problem and also the step that can be taken for the solutions. That's why the measurement is the key part to fight against the food waste. I can say that.
And would you say that you focus measurement on certain levels, for example, in the kitchen, than more than with the leftovers of consumers, or did you try to capture everything?
Everything starts from the menu planning to the return of the plate from the customers.
Okay.
So we try to understand the menu planning is wrong, or is there any improvement on the menu planning or the stock management or or how can I say the storage rules. So that's why we started the project from the menu planning to the plate coming from the customers.
Thank you very much, Tule, for the supplementary explanation. I just want to say sorry for the people asking questions in the Q&A box, which I cannot understand because I don't speak your languages, and I guess that all participants, speakers, or in the organization will help to address your question later. Thank you very much again, Tule. Now, I would like to welcome our next speaker, who is Rochit Rajan, Head of Global Food Waste Sustainability at Sodexo. So Mr. Rajan will speak in more detail about the approach of Sodexo to food waste reduction from strategy to execution. So dear Rochit, we are looking forward to your presentation. If everything is all right for you, please go ahead.
Thank you. Just a quick check if you can see my screen and you can see and hear me.
I can see your screen and I hear you well.
Perfect. Thank you, Thomas, for this. And thank you once again for the opportunity to be here along with some distinguished fellow panelists to talk about a very important topic for the world today, that is food waste, and especially what this particular sector could do to address this situation. So I'm Rochit Rajan. I've taken over a new role from last month, which is the Head of Global Food Waste Sustainability. It's an interesting role for me, and once again, it also puts the topic and the focus on the topic quite significantly within Sodexo. Sodexo is known for the food services, but we also do facility management services. But overall, we serve 100 million consumers every day. We are present in a lot of countries, a lot of European countries, with our global headquarters in France. I've been with Sodexo for 11 years. 7 years in Paris, a few more years in Singapore, and from the last month based out of Dubai. That's where I'm currently. So once again, a pleasure to be with you all today. First, I'll talk about a few big numbers. All you need to know that the topic is that important that the number does everything that is happening in the world today. I think the numbers are too big to ignore. First, on the climate change topic, this is Project Drawdown, that lists out the top 100 solutions. And from there, if you look at the third solution in the world today to address climate change, it is about food waste reduction. So it's really about the focus. And if you have to limit the global temperature increase to 2 degrees centigrade, although we want it at 1.5, the number one solution that Project Drawdown presents is also food waste reduction. So that's from a climate change standpoint. Of course, there's the social impact side of things, and this is where things start to become a scandal. It's a scandal, but it's also an opportunity. When there are a few hundred millions of people who are suffering from food insecurity, hunger, it is a scandal, and that's the size, bigger than the size of Europe, the number of people, or the bigger than the size of Americas put together. At the same time, we have this almost 1 billion people who lack access to fresh water. So imagine all the love, passion, energy, fuel, water, etc., that has gone into the making of the food that is ultimately being wasted. The last aspect, and it is an important aspect because of the economic reasons, and sometimes businesses in the world historically and have been driven out of economic numbers, and this is an excellent topic to address it also from an economic standpoint. As we mentioned before, there's a lot of food being wasted. 26% of the food that is being wasted comes from this food service industry. And amongst that, what has been put as an average is 4 to 10% of what we produce is being, or what we procure is being wasted. So that's once again a significant impact. But really, the true cost of food waste, we tend to associate food waste to food cost, the raw material cost. But it's not just only but there's also a labor cost impact. There's also the all the food that is being prepared and ultimately being wasted. That's the labor side of things. And the haulage or the utility or other aspects accounts for 10%. So it's almost like a 5:4:1 ratio that we have on the food waste side. So it's not just food cost, but also the labor and other costs that could be saved. Although it's very difficult sometimes to peel off and say, X kilograms of food waste, what is my labor cost associated to that? It's difficult, but you can correlate and you can see this impact. But that wasted food is now, this year, even more expensive because of inflationary pressures that come in food. As you can see in the graph on the left, 30% increase over the last year on food prices. Because if you are wasting food that could be saved or used in the right way, which is for human consumption, then there is savings to be made. And labor shortages are everywhere. We as industry, we've been impacted significantly with the labor shortages because of COVID, because of everything else. So you can see how food waste connects to both these solutions, and how food waste is the answer to also bringing that savings opportunity in an already well-run food business. So, in summary, food waste is the elephant today in the world's kitchen. Traditionally, we've always been thinking about food waste always existed in the kitchen. It's just that we are showing the light or throwing the light on this topic. And it needs to be spoken about in the kitchen, but also beyond. It's simply because sometimes it's the way we call it, it's one of the biggest change management projects that we are going through. It's not just a sustainability project. It's not a technology project that we are bringing about. But it's really, because if we look at a chef, any food waste is perceived sometimes as an inefficiency and hits them in the heart. So if you ask anyone the question, do you have food waste? The answer is no, there's no food waste in my kitchen. But then if you start opening the bins and others, and then you see what is happening, what is this, what is that? You ask the question. So the key part here is to highlight this topic, because food waste was seen as a necessary evil in food services to run the business. But we cannot fix a problem that we refuse to acknowledge. That's the first thing. And that acknowledgement is validated only through concrete, measurable actions that are accelerated at scale. It's not doing one thing here and there in one country or one side, but using that to scale the business. Because in Sodexo, we have done a few pilots, and my boss used to comment, we have more pilots than Air France. So it's really time to take things to scale. And this is what we have done with Sodexo. We have a target and a strategy and a commitment of 50% reduction by 2025, in alignment with the UN SDG 12.3, a little bit in advance. But once again, here the idea is not to compare with UN, but really how do we show the light and accelerate and support our ecosystem and our partners and others within the industry through any learnings, research, and to accelerate this change. So what have we done? We have implemented, once again, there is a big chunk of activities that we do around prevention, and that's what I'll be focusing on today. There's also a chunk of activity we do around donation, and then the third one around diversion. But nothing is possible, or everything else becomes meaningless if prevention is not taken into consideration. It's what happens, how do you make sure there's no food waste in the first place, is really the focus. So we've implemented a program that is called Waste Watch. It's powered by LeanPath, with whom we have partnered with, and that's the technology and the digital solution that you see in the middle. There is a video that comes after that I can show you. But the idea behind it is, first of all, we need to capture all the food waste that is happening in our kitchens. So both pre-consumer, we have 8 or 9 food waste categories: overproduction, catering guarantee, preparation, out of date, spoilage, trimming, expiry, but also on the plate waste side. Although sometimes we are asked the question, but how can we decide how much a consumer would waste? But we don't want to push the burden on the consumer. We have a role to play to influence, being in direct contact with our consumers to bring about that change. Similarly, what has happened on single-use plastics is something that we can bring about around food waste and bringing that greater consciousness. But here, it's about measuring everything across the whole food services operation, from the kitchen, from the tray return area, from the serving area. Everything gets weighed on a weighing scale that is integrated with that digital platform, and the data goes in. So we also measure the various food items that goes in. More than 100 different food items are measured. Once again, this is quite simple to use. So in a day, for a typical food service operation, they spend 5 minutes overall in this particular program. So that's the Waste Watch program, and this is where you see it in action, where you have some excess food waste. It's weighed on a scale. It's linked to that tablet. You have some posters and other information and reports that carry out, because ultimately it's about data and what the data shows us. Which times of the day are we wasting most food? Is it Friday? Is it because right now we're going to a remote working world where most people are using Friday as a way to work from home? So it provides a lot of different information, but the key part here is decision making. How is this information useful for me, and what actions and goals can I drive in my food service operation to bring about that change? So we don't do it in just one site. We do it in more than 1,000 sites today within Sodexo, and we want to take it into much higher. A site is almost like a restaurant you can imagine of. But this is not just asking a site manager to get it done and putting the onus on them, but really an effort that goes from the site manager or the frontline staff all the way up to the CEO level. And there are different strong governance established to support this. Once again, this gives you a visibility of how this works, how it has been monitored on a frequent basis, regularly, to give that ownership and accountability to bring about the change. This is critical because without that governance, without that process, it can take you only to a certain level, but beyond that, the focus goes, because there's always another topic that could become more important than this. So here's the video I was talking about. This is an English-speaking video. We had a few other videos, but I thought at least from an English-speaking context, this would be good to share. This is in the UK, and let me try to play it out.
I didn't realise the effects that food waste had until I'd had the LeanPath training, mainly the effect it has on the environment and monetary costs as well. I think on a weekly basis our waste has dropped by at least 100 to 150 pounds from what we used to have before we got LeanPath installed.
I think everybody's appreciative of how much they're wasting now. It's silly things like trimming a melon, trimming a pineapple, not taking too much off, and they're very big on like recycling at the Nuffield anyway. So for us to do this, to recycle the food, it's something else they can promote, and there's not going to just general waste bin, it's going to a food collection bin, so it's less general waste for them as well.
We've looked at what we've been wasting, and certain dishes, for example, that we know won't sell, we will make smaller batches, so we're not throwing as much away. So we used to have 3 large breaks deliveries a week, and that's been dropped to 2. When you think about an Arctic truck coming from the warehouse to us less once a week for a year, how much fuel that would save is quite a large figure as well. So this is Sodexo WasteWatch, which is powered by Lean Path equipment. It's very easy to use. Basically, you've got digital scales here. Whatever food waste it is, it could be plate waste, patient meal waste, or food waste, which is this. Click that. Then it's vegetable trimmings. Click vegetable. And then you click the size of the tub, which is 1/4 deep, and then where it came from. So this is trim waste, and it's from the grill section of the kitchen, and that comes to 10p. It's important to be passionate about it, because I think it's making a big difference, especially if everyone starts doing it, then it's going to make a really big difference. The team have been more involved with the ideas of food waste by coming up with their own ideas, and we've implemented them into the kitchen on a daily basis. Waste watch isn't going anywhere. I'd say it's just as important as your allergen work, just as important as writing your menus, and the sooner you get started, the better.
So what you saw was a hospital site where this was done. Once again, the question is not Lean Path as it's the company that we work with. But there are many other companies out there that provide a technology-based solution. The technology-based solution is always good, because we started off with a pen and paper-based approach, and we realized that when we have to take it to scale, a pen and paper-based approach is a good starting point. But to scale, we need automation. And having that digital solution helps us and enables us to achieve or to get to where we want to get to. Once again, there are different other versions of using AI and image processing to get to solutions. But in our case, we used the finger-based approach of tapping in because of cost-benefit aspect. So what have we done so far? We have implemented this program in 26 countries. More than 1,000 of our restaurants have done it. We have seen food waste being reduced by 48% at those deployed sites. It's equivalent to almost 9 million meals prevented from going to waste. Once again, we also do the carbon emissions calculations linked to this food waste too. So that's just the WasteWatch program. But what you see on the right is for us, we treat food waste as our #1 climate change topic and priority for a food service industry for the reasons I mentioned before. So we work with a lot of different organizations, and we are one among the members of the Champions 12.3. We have Toma today from International Food Waste Coalition that Sodexo is a founding member of. We have 10-year partnership with WWF. We are working with 10, 20, 30, the RAP, Stop Hunger, more around the diversion and others. So it's not only about the operational side of things, but we also look at it more from a balance sheet side of things, because we were the first global food services company to connect our financing or with our banks to our actions that we take to prevent food waste. So 1.3 billion euros of our revolving credit facility that we have established with the 9 banks includes that pricing adjustment based on our performance every year to prevent food waste, so that we are at -50% by 2025. So these figures are audited, we present to the banks, and we see the progress. And this is how we put ourselves accountable from a public view too around our reduction.
Rashid, thank you very much. Maybe I'm asking you to conclude so we keep time for the Q&A session, please.
Sure. So we also work upstream with our suppliers, and here 10, 20, 30, 10 of the largest companies working with 20 of the largest suppliers to reduce food waste 50% by 30. And here we can see the downstream efforts or the consumer side of things. Here, the habits of the consumers saying that limiting food waste is the #1 thing they can do on their shopping habits. This is the Accenture study. Here, it's public information. If you go to Google and search for Sodexo and consumer food waste research on food waste, you can see all these numbers. Once again, a lot of emphasis needed around the consumer side of things to take our consumers also in that journey to reduce food waste. So thank you, and I'll end with that the tagline that you all can see.
Thank you very much, Rashid, for the presentation of the entire Sodexo approach towards this great challenge of food waste reduction. In the video, we've heard the chef saying it's important to be passionate about it. We know the pressure that the team have in their operation to deliver the best meal possible. How do you manage to get their involvement towards this challenge of reducing food waste and having them understand that it's a win-win and not only an extra load of work for them?
It's a very good question, Thomas, and it's a question that we challenge ourselves with, because we sometimes get challenged by some of our site team members around this project. Is it another thing that we have to do on top of every other things that we are doing today? So what is it that we should do? So here's where it gets a little tricky, in the sense that first, before we present the solution, there's some hesitancy sometimes if it's the right thing to do or not. But then once the program is settled, especially in the early stages of the program that we did, everyone, through feedbacks that we have collected, had said this is exactly the program that we need to drive efficiency within our operations, because they see the value behind that. Food service operations, there will always be a lot of firefighting, but this contributes to as a solution to address many of the issues: food cost, labor engagement, consumer awareness, client engagement. All of this gets ticked, and finally they're contributing to something that is meaningful from a climate perspective and trying to see how efficient they are. But here what we also say is we're not comparing you to another site. It's you against you. So because you could have pre-prepared and pre-peeled vegetables and others, but another site could have peeled not pre-peeled vegetables. So it's not you versus another, it's you versus yourself, and try to reduce that food waste by 50%. Is a global target. Some would have already done significantly, and therefore the tapering happens, while for the others it's just that starting journey and putting that highlight. So once again, at this point in time, it's a challenge in some of our segments because of labor shortages and others. So we need to be understanding of that and not to be tone deaf to that. So once again, it's a priority, and we use our site managers as ambassadors to talk to other sites, because it's not coming from the management or higher level as an objective or a reporting, but really using ambassadors to talk about the benefits of the programs, also the challenges.
Thank you very much, Rashid, for this extra information and understanding, and and good luck on this challenge, and look forward to working with you as we've been in the past. So without further ado, I would like to pass the floor to our next speaker, Richard Swanell, International Director at Grub. Mr. Swanell will present the comprehensive food waste reduction program of Grub, Guardians of Grub, aimed at players in food service sector. So Richard, if you're all set up, please, you have our attention.
Thank you very much, Thomas. And just going to check that you can see the slides okay and you can hear me fine.
Yeah, we can hear you and see the screen perfectly.
Lovely. Thank you very much. And hello, everybody. And thank you very much to FAO for the invitation to speak to you this morning. It's a real privilege and pleasure to speak to you about this really important topic that's been echoed by all the speakers so far. So I'm Richard Swanell from WRAP, and WRAP is an international NGO. We work on food, we work on textiles, and we work on plastics. And currently we work in around 40 countries around the world. And today I'm going to speak to you about our Guardians of Grub program, Grub being another colloquial name in the UK for food, and has the benefit of being alliterative with guardians. And really this is around a behavioral change program to help people within kitchens around the world to reduce food waste. And I guess the key issue is just to echo what others have said, is why tackle food waste? Why is it so important? Well, across the whole of the supply chain, from farm to fork, we waste over a third of all the food that is produced on the planet. And to get that into perspective, we need an area the size of China to grow the food that we throw away every single year. And this is against a backdrop, as others have said, when 1 in 9 go to bed hungry every single night. And as we've already heard, that's about 8 to 10% of global greenhouse gas emissions. So to put that into perspective, if food waste was a country, it would be the 3rd biggest emitter of greenhouse gas emissions on the planet. And tackling food waste, as you've heard, is one of the top 3 things that you can do as a planet to address climate change. And it's costing a fortune. And if you add up the food loss and waste, it's well over $1 trillion every single year that we're chucking away. And so there's a huge reason. There are very good economic reasons, very good social and excellent environmental reasons as to why we should tackle food loss and waste. And let's just look at a little bit about what we mean by food waste. Well, clearly we've got edible food, which is what we're all striving to get to our customers. Inedible, like the peelings and the stones of the avocado, for example, that we can't use. Then there's waste, which actually could have been eaten. That comes from preparation. It comes from spoilage within the kitchen. And also it comes from plate waste when it's not been eaten by the customer. And there can be other causes like personal preferences that drive that. And of course, we've also got surplus food, which has the potential, at least, of being donated to those in need. And so what is WRAP focused on? Well, WRAP is focused on using public-private partnerships or voluntary agreements that we've already heard of so far this morning in terms of actually driving change towards halving food loss and waste in line with the SDG 12.3 goals, and indeed the goals of the European Union as part of their Green Deal, and also as the increasingly a network of countries around the world that have come out of the UN Food System Summit talking about food is never waste and hitting that 12.3 goal. And the work I'm about to describe today is actually part of our court-old commitment, which is the UK's voluntary agreement to drive change. And the other part of voluntary agreement is not only working with businesses to drive change, but also working with citizens to drive change through our Love Food, Hate Waste campaign. So how much food is thrown away in the UK? Well, the hospitality sector in the UK throws about 1.1 million tons of food away every single year, of which 75% is in fact avoidable. So we can actually address the vast majority of that food that's thrown away. And what we've done is we've looked carefully at both the costs and the environmental impact of that. And the average cost in US dollars for every cover in restaurants is about $1.29. In hotels, it's 69 cents, in leisure 61. You can see that right across the supply chain, with the cheapest being the quick service restaurants at 19 cents, but in every single sector, significant savings can be made per cover by actually reducing the avoidable food waste that is thrown away. And in carbon terms, actually, the embodied emissions is about 3.27 tons of CO2 per ton purchased. So that's the big source. And then that is disposed of, the majority of that goes to landfill around the world. And that therefore contributes to methane. And methane was one of the key focus areas we must act that came out of COP26. And that adds another 0.12 tons towards for every ton wasted. So you add that up and you get 3.39 tons or nearly 3.4 tons of CO2 for every ton of food that's disposed. So this is a significant area to act in terms of food, impact on the planet, but also the profits that are made by the organizations in this sector. And given the history of the last year that's happened to this sector, actually addressing both of those issues, costs and also environmental impact, is key to the future. So what we did is initially we worked closely with our signatories within the Court-Old Commitment to work out exactly how things might need to change within store in order, so within the kitchens, in order to make the maximum impact. And this is one example. So we've amassed a range, literally tens of case studies, which have all looked at how to do this. And there's a common theme that's emerging across all the presentations this morning. The system for weighing and measurement is central to driving change. If you don't measure, you can't manage. And so operationalizing measurement has been a key theme for all of the businesses that have successfully reduced food waste. And integrating not only that into the operational reporting, this is something that Baxter Story did, so that each kitchen, each chef was reporting regularly on actually the food waste in their individual kitchen. And then Following up by understanding the causes of food waste, then robust training for long-lasting behavior change across the kitchen helped, in this particular case, reduce food waste by 35%. And they did that in as little as 6 months. And they've got an annual saving of around $4 million from that experience. So what we've done is we've taken all of the learning from all of these case studies that we've working with businesses, working with the hospitality trade association inside the UK, in order to come up with a behavioral change campaign for the kitchen called Guardians of Grub. And the idea is to focus on everybody in the sector. Everyone has a role in helping to reduce food loss and waste. And it's all around feeding people, not bins. And it's empowering everybody in a kitchen in order to be able to encourage them to take their role in reducing food waste and ensure we feed people, not bins. And so there's a campaign toolkit. There's a range of operational resources and case studies, video case studies, paper-based studies, and there's a regular newsletter, and there's free learning and training that goes as part of the Guardians of Grub campaign. So just to give you an example, we have posters, for example, which you can download and just use within the kitchen to help you tackle spoilage and preparation and plate waste. And also, critically, there is a food tracking calculator. Now, we've already heard Sodexo using an excellent methodology within their operations, and Metro doing the same and putting food waste measurement at the heart of what they do. And given what we want to do is to make sure there is a range of options for small, medium, and large kitchens to use. So we've come up with a simple Excel spreadsheet, which you can download and use, which calculates your waste and where it's coming from, your plate, your prep and spoilage, very low cost, very simple to import. And of course, there's training on how to use it so that you can track how much it's costing per cover, per week, per month, per year. And you can also then add that data to the Guardians of Grub tracking calculator so that we can see what progress is being made across the whole sector, or indeed on Unilever Food Solutions Wise Up on Waste tool online. So this is a simple way of integrating even into the smallest kitchens a regular monitoring system for food waste. And what we've also done is developed a quick and easy 15-minute standalone online module, which can be used with anybody in the sector to help them track food waste, find the hotspots, where are the biggest sources, and to take action to protect profits and the planet. So it's really simple, really straightforward, and easy to integrate new people into kitchens, given what's happened as a result of the COVID outbreak. There's been a lot of staff turnover within the hospitality sector across Europe, and this is a good way of actually engaging new recruits in on the food waste reduction agenda. And as you can see from the quotes on the screen, people have found it easy to follow, left feeling very motivated, simple, clear, highly engaging. So that's one way of getting involved. But also another critical way is to encourage champions within kitchens. So we've actually developed, this was actually as the sector was coming out of the first lockdown, the Becoming a Champion campaign as part of Guardians of Grub, looking specifically to encourage specific individuals within kitchens to become a champion for food waste reduction. And in there, we've got build why tackle this, and then learning and skills development, knowledge checks, certificates and evidence-based reporting so that you can actually use the data. And we encourage all champions to submit the reductions in food waste that have happened as a result of them taking their learning back into the kitchen, and equips teams with knowledge. It's an expert within the kitchen that can who's got a really clear understanding of food waste and its impact on climate change. When we rolled this out, the first 114 champions found 86% found the course was really helpful and useful. But what was critical is that as a result of going on the course, 4 weeks later, the food waste per cover was 38% reduced, and the cost savings was 37% per cover. So this actually does work, and it was really interesting to use this behavioral change approach to actually empower champions to make a difference. So what would we love you all to do who are listening today? Well, as everybody said, engage staff to understand where your food is wasted, and also what is causing it, so you can make instant savings. And once you've seen the changes, Make sure you're putting a measurement infrastructure that actually enables you to track changes over the time and share those changes through social media with your colleagues at work, through case studies, videos, and blogs, so that we're building momentum towards a lower waste kitchen right across the world, and particularly right across Europe. And reach out to RAP if you're interested in finding out how Guardians of Grub might work in your country or your city. But my key message to you all is, let's feed people, not bins. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Richard. It's we know when we work in a restaurant, how precious it can be to get support in terms of methodology, tools, and idea to start and push forward your journey in food waste reduction, because yeah, somehow it's still a kind of new issue at this scale, and so maybe the first question: these resources are all available for free within the initiative of Guardians of Grub?
They're all available for free within the UK, yeah, absolutely, and anybody can use them, and they're specifically designed so they can operate at multiple levels. So for the smallest kitchen with maybe 2 people, right up to the largest kitchens, which are looking after an entire hospital, like you saw with Sodexo. So yeah, absolutely. It's freely available within the UK to everybody who wants to use it.
So part of the resources are case studies which indicates the outcomes, the results, the savings that you can expect after having implemented such a program with the different resources available. So from free resources to the proofs that they actually work and deliver significant savings, where do you think we can act to make sure that this program has a significant impact, and to, because I would say that the only obstacle would be the time available in kitchen to implement this program. So how would you answer to that?
Yeah, and I think that's really important. And what we've tried to do with Guardians of Grub, and it's very much focused on empowering people within kitchens, is to actually use the voices of those in kitchens on the videos and within the case studies to encourage others to act. I mean, the business case, the social case, and the environmental case are extremely clear, and we just need to keep resurrecting it. Now, it's one thing for an organization like an NGO like RAP to sort of say, look, there's a really big case to do this. And it's also great to hear that reinforced, of course, through HoReCa, and also through the trade associations in countries all across Europe are doing exactly the same thing. But what's really powerful is when you hear your colleagues in the sector, you know, in a restaurant, in a hotel. And of course, that's the other thing, is that each subsector of the hospitality food service sector has a different way of thinking about this, slightly different language, different priorities as a result of exactly what they're doing. So if you're working in a prison, it's very different if you're working in a Michelin star restaurant in London. So making sure that what you're getting is feeling part of a community that is all working together to actually measure and tackle food waste, and coming up with some really quite interesting solutions there, which are being shared within the Guardians of Grub campaign. That, I think, helps us build momentum towards making this happen. And also by making available, you know, there are commercially available and really excellent measurement techniques that are available for businesses, but also making sure that there's for the smallest businesses, there are simple ways that organizations can measure food waste and then implement a program. That's also key.
Thank you. You've mentioned measurement again, and I know we've mentioned a lot of measurements this morning, so I guess it's not by chance, it's a fundamental aspect of food waste reduction. The food tracking calculator that you mentioned in the resources available and provided by Guardians of Grub, what is the unity of measurement that it is considering to help team monitor their food waste?
Yeah, so we, you know, as RAP, as you know, Thomas, was integral with working with WRI on the food loss and waste reporting standard. And you know, what we've done is we've adapted that very much by working with the sector to come up with something that really works for them. And this is in terms of actually making it very simple to measure. I mean, a simple balance will do the job, but also in common sense of reporting. And what we found is cost savings per cover is something that actually motivates chefs, motivates people within the business very, very clearly. So making sure that that is reported, but so that people can clearly see that actually in proportion to what is being prepared and sold within that kitchen, you can see proportionate savings going through. And what was really interesting, just listening to the Sodexo video, was that is then manifested itself in less food coming into the kitchen. So you know you're making better use of the food that you're purchasing. I thought that was a really lovely way of doing it. But yeah, what we've done is we've worked carefully on that calculator to come up with metrics that the industry have told us, and through the champions work that we've done, and through working with people in kitchens, that they appreciate, now this is what's going to motivate us to drive change. Sure, we can calculate how much carbon savings that's made. Sure, we can, if donation is going on within, we can calculate that as well, because that makes us feel good. But the thing that's driving us is often the cost savings, because that's going to make a real difference to our business, given the difficult circumstances that much of the sector is under at the moment.
Thank you very much, Richard, indeed, and yeah, I hope that Guardians of Grub campaign will help to have this significant impact that we need in the sector. Thank you again, Richard. So, if we have no other question arising, let us please consider a technological solution to food waste in commercial kitchen, brought to you by Winnow Solution, and we were speaking about cost saving related to food waste reduction. So let's see if Winnow is aligned on this, and I imagine that we have a lot to learn with the Winnow Solution case. So I would like to welcome David Jackson, who is Director of Marketing and Public Affairs for Winnow Solution. So dear David, if everything is right for you, we look forward to hearing about Winnow Solution.
Thank you, Thomas. Can I check that you can see my screen and that you can hear me?
Yes, we hear you and we see your screen perfectly well.
Perfect. Thank you, Thomas. And thank you all for the platform to speak today. Very good to be with you. So my name's David. I'm the Director of Marketing and Public Affairs at Winnow. So at Winnow, we develop artificial intelligence tools to help chefs in large kitchens like staff restaurants, universities, casinos, cruise ships, and retailers to run more profitable and sustainable kitchens by cutting food waste in half. We were launched in London in a single staff restaurant in 2013. Fast forward to today, we're present in 45 countries, working with the likes of IKEA, Compass Group, Hilton, Marriott, Costa Cruise, and many, many, many more. So today I want to talk to you about a couple of things. I want to talk about the potential impact that artificial intelligence, and specifically in our case, computer vision, which is the technique of teaching a machine to see, and the impact that could have as we look to solve the food waste problem in our kitchens. I'm going to share some data from the work that we've been doing around the world, benchmarking the levels of food waste. I'm going to talk a little bit about what the future holds in a new product that we've launched this year called Winnow Sense, which looks at tackling the plate waste problem with a combination of behavioral science and technology. But before I do that, I'd like to introduce some of our lovely users. This is Kristen. She's the kitchen production manager at IKEA in Eindhoven. I know when you think about IKEA, you probably think about Billy bookcases, but the food business on IKEA's side, they're one of the biggest by volumes and food service businesses in the world, pre-pandemic serving over 650 million guests in their customer restaurants every year. If you haven't tried them, I really recommend the new plant balls that they've launched a couple of years ago, delicious alternative to the quintessential meatball, and IKEA have been a client of Winnow since 2015. This is Chef Simon, who's the head chef at the International Convention Centre, the ICC, here in the UK. Chef Simon oversees a team of chefs who create brain food at the convention centre that's really designed to keep people alert and awake and engaged at the various events that are held at the conference centre. At their peak, they'll serve 350,000 people a day. And Chef Simon and the catering company Amadeus that runs the catering at the centre there have been partners of Winnow since 2018. And finally, this is Chef Ajay. Chef Ajay is the executive chef at the Armani Hotel in Dubai, regularly kind of voted as the most luxurious hotel in the world. It's housed in the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, which is the world's tallest building. And Chef Ajay oversees a number of world-leading restaurants from Indian to Italian to international cuisine. And the team at the Armani Hotel have been users of Winnow since 2018 as well. So what do these very different kitchens all have in common? Well, they all want to please their customers. They want to create food that delight their customers, and they want to treat the food that comes into their kitchens with care. And unfortunately, they all also waste food. And that's not because they're inefficient or lazy. It's because we're often asking our culinary teams to make complex forecasting decisions in often stressful environments with imperfect information. And that problem really is what Winnow was launched to solve. So as we've already heard, food waste tends to be underestimated in our kitchens. It's difficult to measure. And our data shows that somewhere between 5 and 15% of the food that's purchased in a commercial kitchen will then end up being wasted. If you kind of juxtapose that with the profit and loss account, often you might find between 3 and 5% in the accounts of a kitchen. And again, this is just because it's very difficult to measure. Pen and paper is notoriously inaccurate, and it's just not feasible to employ somebody in the kitchen to take copious notes of what's being thrown away, which is why we need technology to help us get accurate benchmarks and track food waste at a really granular level. One of the things that we're able to do at Winnow is to then zoom into where food waste occurs. And one of the things that's important to understand is that the waste profile will differ by service style. So in a kitchen like IKEA or a big staff restaurant, most food will be wasted just because the team make too much. And that's because they're trying to forecast in advance the number of people coming in on a given day. And they'll use different techniques to make that forecast, but ultimately they're making a prediction in terms of how much to make on any given day. That's different to a cook to order, kind of your local Italian, for example, where more food will come back off customers' plates because they don't serve themselves, and there might be more spoilage because a larger inventory has to be held, and the team in the kitchen won't know exactly who's going to come through the door on any given day. So understanding those different waste profiles can be really helpful in then devising strategies to reduce it. So when Winnow was launched in 2013, it was a manual system where you would kind of tap a tablet to record food that's being thrown away with the digital scale that makes it really accurate. But we've always asked ourselves, what if we could arm our chefs with the latest technology to fight food waste? And we began this journey when the technology became viable. So we kicked this off with IKEA in the UK as our first kind of innovation partner in 2017. You can see our MVP, our minimum viable product here, kind of quite clumsily. There's a camera kind of over the bin there on a rig that you can see if you look carefully. There's some sellotape, so not exactly high tech right at the beginning, but IKEA were really instrumental, and over 2 years their teams gave us really valuable feedback to then develop our AI product, Winnow Vision. And this is how it works. A camera goes into a terminal that sits above the bin, and there's a digital scale that records the weight underneath. A user will throw food away and an image is captured automatically. In real time, the computer vision algorithm then identifies what the food was and records that transaction in the cloud. Over the course of service, then chefs and kitchen team members throw food away in the usual way, and each time our model then identifies what's new in the bin, what's been thrown away, and what is that item. We'll either ask the user to identify from a shortlist what that item was. So in this case, French fries, which saves time, or if the model is very confident of what that item is, then it will kind of bypass that step and categorize the item on its own. The results of this can be significant. So we'd expect to see food waste cut in half within about 6 to 12 months. Initially, we'd identify kind of low-hanging fruits and quick opportunities to reduce waste in the most kind of obvious areas. Then in the middle phase, identifying further efficiency gains, leading to kind of maintaining those long-term reductions over time. And I think this is really important. One of the things that we believe at Winnow is that you need continual measurement in order to maintain your savings. And one of the ways that we're going to do that, as you have new team members coming into the kitchen, perhaps people who haven't been trained, we need to try and automate that recording process as much as we can. And in the future, we believe that every kitchen will be able to benefit from the benefits of automating food waste measurement and recording using computer vision. So the typical food cost savings for a kitchen using Winnow would be about 2 to 8% of food purchasing costs, and we'd expect to deliver a return on investment of between 2 and 10 times our fees. A big part of our offering is the analytics tools that come with the measurement. So measurement is great, but can we give insights in a really usable, actionable way? We allow our users through our analytics platform, Winnow Hub, to zoom into a particular service. As you can see here, they can look at the different images, for example. They can track their different KPIs over time, and they can benchmark performances against sites. It's really been designed for enterprises who are looking to reduce food waste across, hundreds, if not thousands of kitchens. One of the things that you're able to do with Winnow is to then zoom into the actual images themselves. I know they're not very visually appealing, but this is the problem that we're dealing with, and we're able to then benchmark levels of preparation, and that's something that we're really interested in at the moment. How do we minimize preparation waste? A recent analysis found that of all of the trimmings, the prep waste that was thrown away, about 70% of it could have been avoided. So it's a really big opportunity. And one of the things we're able to do then is then say, right, well, there's a training requirement for the team on the left here who are leaving lots of the peppers and lots of the flesh of the salmon when they're filleting their salmons, and that's just a quick conversation or maybe some training to improve the performance there. We're also then interested in then kind of taking this data and then giving a kind of recommendation to teams saying, you seem to be throwing away the tops of your tomatoes. Have you thought about different sources, for example, that you could be using? We're really excited to kind of build that part out of our product as well. Most recently, we've launched Winnow Sense, which looks at plate waste. And the way this works is we put the system into either the front or the back of house, and a user or a customer will throw food away. The system then automatically takes a picture and it automatically weighs the food that was wasted. We're able to then give teams analytics over time that look at how much plate waste is coming back from our customers in our dining area. And we can apply these insights to reduce post-consumer waste. We can engineer our menus and take off items that our customers don't like. We can reduce our portion sizes perhaps, or we can introduce customer signage that encourages our diners to make more sustainable choices. And as I said, this can either be put in the back of house in a pot wash or in the front of house, so actual customers interact with the product itself. We're really excited about this product. We developed it with the behavioural science unit of the London School of Economics, where we're able to reduce food waste by 35% within a matter of months. Just to finish off then, so we offer a range of solutions for every kitchen, from a basic tablet all the way through to our AI-enabled system, Winnow Vision. And we're being adopted by the leaders within the sector, over 1,400 kitchens. We're most proud of the number of meals that we're saving, over 36 million meals every year. And we're really excited about the future. We've set ourselves a goal of saving $1 billion worth of food every year. And that's what the team at Winnow are excited to work towards. So thank you very much for listening. Great to have the opportunity to speak and look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much, David, for this introduction to Winnow solutions and this approach of bringing tech into the challenge to help the staff in the kitchen and together with the consumers as well to reduce food waste. So let me open this Q&A session with you to better understand how your solution can help the sector to reduce food waste. First of all, you mentioned that thanks to monitoring food waste, you realize that service types really matters and impact the quantity of food waste. And when analyzing the figures that your customers register and record, do you sometimes get to advise on the service type and the different action to manage their service in order to lower food waste?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the kind of first principle is you see food waste across the production process, and Richard mentioned this in his talk. We're trying to create insight into every one of those stages. So whether it be spoilage or prep or trimmings or overproduction or plate waste, where we would make recommendations, and perhaps not on the service style itself, because that's obviously up to the operator, and they'll know their kind of broader operations in much more thorough detail than we will. But we can advise on how they perhaps communicate with their customers. So in the case of Winnow Sense, and just to go into a bit more detail there, by measuring the plate waste on a daily basis, and measuring plate waste is really difficult because it often involves the customers throwing away their own food. It often involves kind of large volumes of plates coming into a pot wash. But if we can get really accurate measurement on a daily basis, then what we can do is we can test different messaging in the dining area, which is going to help people to make more sustainable decisions. So in the example with the London School of Economics, we tested different behavioural nudges through the form of posters over a 12-week period, and we tested environmental messaging, we tested kind of nature-based messaging. Interestingly, anthropomorphized food, so happy or sad food, and kind of images of happy or sad food, was actually found to be the biggest driver in change within those different dining areas that we were testing, and that's something now that we're replicating and scaling in other parts of the world.
Thank you, David. A question arising from Anthony. He's asking whether you can use this solution on a mobile phone, for example.
So not right now. The app is designed to be used so it's an Android app. It's designed to be used on specific hardware that then kind of is able to communicate with, in the case of Winnow Vision, a specific chip within the terminal, and also a scale. So one of the things that we try and do is automate as much of the recording process out of the hands of the culinary teams as possible. In the future, it is something that we're looking at, but it's not something that's available today.
Thank you very much. And we have a question about the mixture of food and on the capacity of the artificial intelligence to identify each food on the plate.
Yep.
On this, could you precise the level of accuracy of your solutions?
Yeah, really, really good question. And we look at lots and lots of images every day, as you can imagine, of food waste at Winnow. So the computer vision model is trained to identify over 600 different types of food. And so when we see those different food types, the computer vision model is very accurate at identifying those different food types. But we've only really just started. So as with all machine learning, computer vision, and artificial intelligence, the more data you capture, and if you organize that data well, the more accurate your model becomes. And so the future that we want to aim towards is that you install the box in the kitchen, and the team are able to gather insight about the food that's being wasted without any interaction at all. And that's the future that we believe all kitchens will benefit from. It will mean that there'll be no human error. It will mean that the teams won't have to spend any time at all measuring the food that's being wasted. And obviously, as the technology is scaled up, the cost should also then come down, and that should make this accessible for every single restaurant, every single kitchen, regardless of size. So we're on that journey. We're just starting that journey. But what we're really excited about is the impact that this can have for the whole sector.
Thank you very much, David. Indeed, it's crucial to elevate the amount of time necessary to monitor food waste if we want to have an accurate food waste monitoring by kitchen staff, and so it is really precious to work on this. So thank you very much for all the explanation. I would like now to welcome our next speakers with Nikita Pododjadin, chef at Moscow-based Bjorn restaurant. Having been recently awarded with a Michelin star and a green Michelin star, Bjorn has a zero waste ethos. This is achieved by choosing to trade directly with farmers and small-scale producers and choosing local ingredients, indicating its staff and its clients. So I have to mention that for this presentation that will be done in Russian, you have to activate, if you want to hear it in English or in Turkish, you have to switch the language by clicking on the small globe icon on the bottom menu. So let's do that together, as I don't understand neither the Russian. And so you click interpretation and then choose the language you want to get your interpretation in. And that should be okay. So Nikita, the floor is yours, and thank you very much.
Приветствую вас всех. Безумно рад участвовать в этом мероприятии. Спасибо большое за доверие, за возможность поделиться своим опытом. Меня зовут Подерягин Никита, я шеф-повар ресторана «Бьорн». Мы находимся в Москве, и это первый zero waste ресторан в России. Сейчас я буду рассказывать о нашем опыте именно с пищевым следом, с food waste, и о том, как именно эту часть, в принципе, экологического следа мы сводили к нулю. Для начала нужно понимать то, что продукт в любом случае оставляет остатки. Если ты работаешь с ним, это не след какого-то отдельного взятого предприятия, не след твоего ресторана, не след чего-то еще. Это результат работы всей системы целиком. И для того, чтобы сократить свой след к минимуму, нужно разбить эту систему на максимальное количество этапов и работать с каждым из них. Нужно помнить о результатах, которые мы хотим получить. В нашем случае идеальный ресторан – это ресторан, который не оставляет после себя никакого следа, кроме эмоционального. И вот к этому следу мы и стараемся стремиться. Если говорить о ступенях сокращения, мы здесь на этом слайде мы видим, в принципе, ситуацию с пищевыми остатками, но у меня есть только старая информация за 2019 год. К сожалению, пандемия внесла определенные коррективы, и свежую информацию получить пока немного проблематично. Но мы видим то, что из 884 миллиардов тонн, 2 из них, точнее 17 из них приходится на Россию, более того, 2 из них занимает именно Москва. По свободным подсчетам около трети приходится на HoReCa, на рестораны, на кафе. Так вот, о этапах. Нужно понимать то, что каждый этап образует свое количество процентов. Мы выделили для себя следующее. Это транспорт, точнее производитель, транспорт, посредники, если они присутствуют, хранение на самом предприятии, работа с самим продуктом и то, что остается у гостей на тарелках. Когда мы говорим о работе с производителем, то имеется в виду принятие его условий труда. Ни один фермер не может вырастить целый идеальный помидор, не может сделать все плоды одинаковыми. Это не делает их плохими, а фермера не профессионалом. Это заставляет вас применить какие-то способы изменения формы. В конце концов, ресторан всегда работает именно с финальным продуктом. Никто не кладет на тарелки просто красивый помидор, так не подает. В конце концов, всегда можно приготовить соус, всегда можно изменить саму форму, и достаточно выбирать, работать напрямую с производителем, выбирать все, что ты можешь взять у него, относясь с уважением к его труду. В конце концов, наша статистика, то, что это порядка 8,2% приходится потери продукта на этапе производителя. Следующий момент – это логистика. Какие бы самые современные технологии перевозки ты не использовал, всегда есть процент порчи. Он колеблется от 3 до 30%, если мы говорим о транспорте, автомобильном транспорте. И есть только, по сути, единственный способ повлиять на образование процента порчи продукта на этом этапе – это сокращать плечо. Полностью убрать его не получится, все равно порядка 3% пропадает. Но в нашем случае достаточно было сократить нашу зону локальности, зону нашего локального продукта до Московской плюс одна область в сторону. По сути, это позволило держать минимальный процент, который образуется от транспортировки. Следующий момент – это использование посредника. Нужно понимать то, что если есть посредник, хотя бы один в параллели производитель-потребитель, появляются дополнительные проценты. Наша статистика, то, что это порядка 8,72% именно на порчу на моменте хранения у посредника. Вывод один, да, мы сокращаем любого посредника, мы не пользуемся его услугами. Следующий момент – это хранение на самом производстве. И здесь все не так радужно, как многим кажется. Любой день хранения смешанного сырья на вашем производстве дает вам порядка 4%. Само собой, какие-то замороженные продукты, подготовленные полуфабрикаты не имеют такой процент вообще. Но что касаемо скоропортящихся продуктов типа зелени, типа кисломолочной продукции, молочной продукции, то их процент может доходить до 15, 30, а то и 45 в день. Я не призываю выкладывать продукты целиком на тарелку, но зачастую нужно помнить то, что любая часть продукта, которая попадает к вам, она пригодна к использованию. Нужно помнить о наших пищевых привычках, сформированных определенным запросом от общественности. То есть мы привыкли думать о том, что каждый продукт должен быть определенной формы, определенного размера, определенного качества. Но качество визуального, потому что зачастую люди приходят к гипертрофии и заставляют рестораны использовать суперкачественные продукты, делая все остальные априори плохими. В нашем случае меньше закупаем, меньше храним, используем абсолютно все. Это позволяет сократить тот самый процент до 4%. Само собой, остается, наверное, самый важный процент для ресторана – это процент при обработке и использовании. Не все части пригодны, не все части растений либо туш животных можно использовать целиком и полностью. Даже если вы сварите из куриной тушки бульон, останется порядка 40% того, что не использовалось, того, что нельзя никак куда-либо добавить, например, уже вываренные из бульона кости. Само собой, это вопрос об утилизации и фантазии каждого из поваров на вашей кухне. Но есть важный момент по ответственности каждого гостя. Дело в том, что это статистика средняя по Москве, и она такова, что в среднем на тарелках ресторана остается порядка 30-35% продуктов, которые были качественно приготовлены, были привезены в рестораны, были обработаны, выложены на тарелку, но гость отказывается, гость не доедает. Это вопрос размера порции, вопрос работы с каждым из гостей, с его идеологией, с объяснением, почему стоит использовать продукт, почему стоит заказывать более маленькие порции, почему ресторатору важно корректировать размер своих порций и работать с идеологией. Ну и здесь смежная статистика о ответственности. Да, то есть мы видим тот момент, что на долю ресторана приходит порядка 45% того, что производит производитель. Гость позволяет себе оставить либо не использовать до 34%, и на самом деле сам производитель и посредник, как и транспортное плечо, образуют около 21% порчи самого продукта. Таким образом, мы видим тот самый процент в средней, это тоже статистические данные наши, около 56% попадает от произведенного. Это вопрос как раз-таки того, что зачастую мы не обращаем внимания на то, сколько продукта выращенного, произведенного, отправленного к вам остается вне вашей цепочки, вне поля вашего зрения. И, само собой, самый главный момент – это вопрос как раз-таки утилизации. По крайней мере, этот вопрос стоит у нас в Москве, как, в принципе, и в России. Есть большая проблема с утилизацией пищевых отходов. Это ситуация, когда ты можешь контролировать свой процент, но в любом случае тот твой food waste, который образовался, неважно на каком этапе, даже если ты собираешь это самостоятельно сортируешь по разным способам хранения, ты не можешь правильно утилизировать. Наверное, это сейчас самая большая проблема утилизации. И остается один единственный способ – это бесконечно долго сокращать к своему минимуму, держа в голове то, что все равно образуется какой-то объем. И сейчас единственный работающий вариант утилизации этого отхода в России – это добровольная отдача каким-то фермерам, каким-то небольшим производителям для компостирования. Само собой, это имеет смежный статус законный, и с этим нужно работать в первую очередь. Само собой, встает вопрос именно работы с гостем, то есть объяснение гостю, почему стоит это делать, почему стоит разговаривать, почему порция в твоем ресторане такая небольшая, почему ты используешь растения целиком, почему ты можешь использовать, почему твое меню такое маленькое, да, то есть почему один и тот же продукт, допустим, мясо, говядина, может встречаться в нескольких позициях. Все дело в том, что тебе нужно объяснить гостю, что нет ничего страшного в том, что ты приготовил из костей соус, приготовил из жил бульон, приготовил из мяса какой-то стейк, либо какой-то тартар, и это все разбросал по меню. С этим нужно работать в плане диалога, то есть нужно объяснять гостю, что это нормально, что это современно, что это имеет определенную необходимость для общества в том числе. Ну и, само собой, работа с своим коллективом, потому что обучение встает вторым краеугольным камнем. Это тяжело, стоит объяснять каждому в своем коллективе, почему это нужно делать, почему это нужно делать именно так. И самое главное, объяснять методику, как ты это делаешь. Но при всем при этом, я думаю, мы неплохо справляемся. Спасибо большое, я готов ответить на вопрос.
Thank you very much, Nikita. Well, it's quite impressive to see a chef who, in order to run its restaurant without food waste, is able to go so deep into the entire across the entire value chain and work directly with food producers and suppliers to achieve maximum impact. So I'm going to check if we have questions arising and open the Q&A session. So again, please share your question in the Q&A box if you have any. Nikita, I would like to ask, since you have worked with the different food producers and suppliers, if you had to change the way you cook and the produces that you cook, have you observed any changes?
Безусловно, приходится постоянно корректировать как и способы приготовления, так и взаимодействие с самими производителями. Зачастую ты получаешь не тот продукт, который видишь в магазинах, не тот продукт, который видишь на прилавке, ты получаешь продукт лучшего качества, просто потому что он более свежий, но он гораздо менее фотогеничен. И тебе нужно проявлять смекалку, находчивость, чтобы как-то обработать этот продукт. Это несложно, это требует дополнительного времени, требует твоего включения в работу постоянного, но при всем при этом нет ничего невозможного. Но это требует времени, да.
Thank you. And at the end, working directly with producers helps you to also source better quality product. and so the value in your food that you serve to your consumer, do you think it helps consumer to also reduce their food waste, and also yourself, because you know you have very, very valuable product in your kitchen that you make sure you don't waste any part of it?
Я думаю, что есть несколько плюсов, которые точно очевидны. Первый, конечно же, наиболее важный для рестораторов. Твоя работа с твоим пищевым следом – это сокращение твоей себестоимости, твоего фудкоста. Таким образом, влияя на количество того, что ты купил, но выбросил, сокращая его к минимуму, ты снижаешь свой фудкост, и эти цифры доходят до 20%. Для многих ресторанов это довольно значимая цифра. Второй плюс – это, само собой, качество, которое ты даешь гостю. Если ты напрямую общаешься с фермером, напрямую знаешь человека, который это вырастил, который это произвел, такой психологический момент, ты так или иначе принимаешь участие в жизни этого продукта. И тебе так или иначе более совестливо выбрасывать его, либо что-то еще. И, само собой, это более высокое качество. То есть, убирая посредников, убирая транспорт, убирая что-то еще, что, в принципе, не имеет никакой жизненно важной необходимости, ты повышаешь качество продукта для своего гостя, снижаешь свою себестоимость и остаешься в пределах своей концепции, в пределах своего мировоззрения.
Thank you. And Nikita, could you tell us if the customers who come to Beyond Restaurant are aware of what you are doing and how you communicate on your approach to your consumers? And do you think that for them it is an additional reason for coming to eat in your restaurant?
Я думаю, что сейчас в России такая ситуация, то что это вряд ли может быть дополнительной причиной к посещению ресторана. Мы не ставим целью рассказать о нашей эко-программе, рассказать о нашей работе с Food Waste перед столом гостя, но так или иначе любой работник ресторана готов ответить на все вопросы, готов поделиться информацией о том, как это можно сделать. Более того, на нашем сайте есть в открытом доступе информация о том, что именно мы делаем, в каком объеме и как это помогает. Есть небольшие обучающие материалы для других рестораторов о том, как, находясь в Москве, в ее условиях экономических, привести свой ресторан к такому же результату. Но, повторюсь, гость приходит в ресторан, чтобы поесть, чтобы получить удовольствие. Обучение и формирование – это вопрос второй. То есть я ставлю вперед довольство гостя от еды, а все остальное – это дополнительный бонус.
Okay, well understood. So thank you very much, Nikita. We are getting to the end of this webinar, so I would like to thanks very much all the speakers, first of all, this morning, who brought to us their expertise, their knowledge, and their analysis also on what is needed in order to reduce food waste in the context of the food services. I would like also to thanks a lot all FAO team from the Europe and Central Asia office who worked to make this webinar not only possible but highly exciting and interesting. Finally, also thank you to all participants who allowed to make these exchanges very rich, and I hope that you learned, and I hope that you got this sense of urgency to address this topic, because as it has been said during the presentation, it's a topic that helps you to build better relationship with your consumer and customers. It helps you to save money. It helps to stop this scandal of wasting food. in our planet, and of course it helps us also to answer the challenges on the ecological aspect, including global warming. So I think that there is one thing that all the speakers highlighted, and they have all in common in their presentation. It's the fact that they address this topic collectively. Either it is companies who are building partnerships with different solution providers or with institutions in order to think about the way, the most efficient way to address this problem, or if it is NGOs or institutions who are working with the entire ecosystem in order to understand what it takes exactly to make an impact. Or lastly, Nikita, that for the restaurant realized that working with the food producers directly and food suppliers around food waste reduction was also necessary. So I think it's important to be aware that these collaborations are going to help to save costs to address this problem, and they are going to, the different exchanges and the learning from each other are going to help accelerate the fight against food waste and deliver even bigger impact that one person or one company on its own cannot achieve. I would say that another thing that raised from the different exchanges is the way that you measure food waste is essential to seize the opportunity to reduce it and get to prioritize the different actions. And finally, if you take the eyes of someone working in the kitchen, how you can monitor food waste without or with minimum extra load of work is also a key issue to make food waste reduction happen in your kitchen and understand the win-win case for reducing food waste on all the different aspects. So thank you very much to all of you for joining today's webinar, and I hope that we keep on fighting this issue of food waste, and that we are all going towards this SDG 12.3 target. Thank you all, and have a good day or evening.
Thank you. Bye.